The following is a Shaw Public Affairs presentation.
Constituency Report is produced as a public service by members of the BC Legislature through the facilities of Shaw TV.
Hello and welcome to Constituency Report here on Shaw. I'm Tracy Palazzari, joined today by John Less, MLA for Chilliwack. Welcome back to the studio.
Great to be doing this again.
Yes, great to have you. You also have a new title to add, Parliamentary Secretary to the Premier. What will this role entail?
Well, I, of course, will be helping the Premier on any number of different activities. The Premier is a very busy person and can't always cover all the bases herself, so I'm happy to help out in those kinds of issues. But there'll be a particular focus on what used to be the responsibilities of the Minister of State for Intergovernmental Relations, dealing with not only the various provincial governments, but the American state governments as well. We, over the last 10 years, have developed some very good working relationships with our various partners in the states and the provinces. So my responsibility is to make sure that we build on that and expand those relationships, because clearly there's great mutual benefit in doing that. And part of that as well is the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, which is a partnership amongst a number of states and provinces and territories in the Pacific Northwest. I'm heading up the government delegation in that, and as well our various relationships with the Consular Corps in British Columbia. People may not be aware of this, and I wasn't either until a few months ago, that in Canada only Toronto has more consular offices than Vancouver. And they only beat us by 2, I believe it is. They have 82, we have 80. So there's a very significant foreign consular presence in Vancouver, and one of my responsibilities as well is to be the government liaison with these various consular representatives from the various countries of the world. So there's a lot of responsibilities there, and something that I quite enjoy, something quite different from some of the things that I've been involved in the past. And frankly, I'm really excited at being able to work with Premier Clark and what's really a reinvigorated agenda for government.
Well, also among your roles, you sit on Treasury Board and the Priorities and Planning Committee. What sorts of things do you cover there?
Well, Treasury Board, of course, is the place where government spending is approved. I'm just delighted to be part of Treasury Board. It had been something that I had aspired to, actually. So I was delighted when the Premier asked me if I would sit on Treasury Board. I'm particularly interested in capital procurement, how we organize the response to a call for specific projects to be built. We've done some good work, I believe, in developing public-private partnerships in the province, but the great majority of projects are not really good candidates for full-blown public-private partnerships. But even where a full-blown P3 is not appropriate, I think there's still a lot of work that can be done to improve our procurement processes. I firmly believe that, you know, rather than the traditional design low bid process, that a design build process is far superior, because it engages the innovation and competition of the private sector at a much earlier level, and it invites proponents to make proposals as opposed to simply responding to a concept that's already been developed. And once a proposal is accepted by government, it then shifts the risk of delivering that proposal to the proponent instead of that risk being carried by government. So that's perhaps a bit of a high-level explanation. There's a lot within that actually would take a lot longer than we have available today to explain. But I really do think that we as government have an obligation to have a good grip on how our money is spent, that we get good value for money,
Absolutely.
and that the original concept of a project is appropriate, because getting the lowest price on the wrong project is still a waste of taxpayers' money.
Absolutely.
And so I'm really wanting to pursue that a bit more as a member of Treasury Board. Policy and Priorities Committee of Cabinet I also sit on as well, of course. And the role of that committee is exactly as its title would suggest. We're
Right.
dealing with government policy and government priorities moving forward, and obviously we meet from time to time to discuss exactly those.
Yeah, it sounds like interesting work. And you mentioned briefly our new Premier, Christy Clark. Of course, a leadership campaign that I think really reinvigorated the party, brought a lot of buzz and excitement, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. We, I think, came close to tripling our party membership. So that's a good thing. Close to 100,000 members across the province. I'm not sure that any party's ever been able to achieve that before. Very robust and a very democratic process. And at the end of that, of course, Christy Clark ended up the winner. And the other unsuccessful candidates immediately closed ranks and said, you know, we're getting behind her, as indeed we all did, and we're moving forward. And I, of course, have never been through this kind of process before. None of us had. And yet, you know, it is a way for a political party to reinvigorate itself, to reinvent itself.
Yeah.
And that's happening. And I think it's quite an awesome process, and it's really, I think, delivered to us politically, but to the province in general, the prospect of good, solid, free enterprise government for a lot of years to come.
Very exciting times. Also very exciting in your riding to see the Chilliwack campus of University of the Fraser Valley expanding, and a few photos to take a look at, but walk us through some of the improvements that students can expect to see.
Well, I was just there last week having a look at some of the construction, and you know, there's a lot of construction going on there right now. Later this year, the existing Chilliwack campus personnel and students will all be moving to the new campus. You know, in the last couple of years, we've had the Trades Training Center already in operation at the new campus.
Right.
But all of the other you know, classes and programs at the existing Chilliwack campus will be finally moving over later this year, and so that's what that construction is all about. Our provincial government has invested so far about $42 million in that new campus. That includes the acquisition of the site, which is 85 acres. So you know, this isn't just a tucked away corner. This is a big campus. Ultimately, it will be able to accommodate about 1 million square feet of classroom space. So you know, for the future, as far as I can see, we're going to be able to keep building on that site to accommodate the increasing student enrollment at the University of the Fraser Valley. So we acquired the land. We built the Trades Training Center. We put money into the servicing of the site, the roads and the in-ground servicing, and now money for the building of the classroom space, the pictures we just saw on the screen. So I'm just, you know, always very excited that we've got this wonderful opportunity to develop this very significant education campus in Chilliwack, which will be a great home for the University of the Fraser Valley on the banks of the Veta River. I mean, there isn't a location like it anywhere in British Columbia, as far as I'm concerned, a site with mature landscaping at the same time.
Right.
And you know, with that great history behind it, having formerly been a military base, which has led to the establishment there of the Pacific Regional Training Center of the RCMP. Another 60 or so acres is being devoted to the RCMP for basically all of their in-service training. And that is a major component of what needs to go on in any police force. There's always new education required, and re-education required, and new techniques that need to be studied. All of that goes on at the Pacific Regional Training Center of the RCMP. So they're a big presence there.
Yeah.
Canadian Border Services Agency have their Western Canadian Training Center there. And the Justice Institute is going to be building there very soon. And in some of the previously military buildings, they are already conducting some classes there as well.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, what used to be CFB Chilliwack is becoming a major education campus. And, you know, whenever we do this show, I, you know, always want to talk about, you know, the Canada Education Park, because you know, that whole site has been reinvented and is going to become such a critical feature of not only of our education landscape in the Fraser Valley, but also it's going to employ a great many people to provide all of that education and that training. And it's a great opportunity for our young people as well to get their education at home. Access to post-secondary education is, you know, about affordability, but it's also about access. Access in terms of, you know, the place being full or not, you know, whether they can accept new students or not, but also access in terms of, you know, physical proximity.
Right, right.
You know, when you've got a university presence right in your backyard, you're going to be more likely to be able to go to university. It's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I graduated from high school, way too many years ago, there was no university presence, there was no college presence whatsoever in Chilliwack, Abbotsford, Langley, or anywhere else. The closest we had was, I think it was at that point, an emerging Simon Fraser University in Burnaby. And it was only in its infancy at that point, and the other, of course, being the University of British Columbia. So, you know, in that period of time, we've come a long way in British Columbia, and, you know, Chilliwack is now part of the university landscape in the province, and that availability is now there for our young people in the Fraser Valley as well.
Yeah, and all students are going to benefit, and Aboriginal students in particular, some increased access to programs and a gathering place as well. That was really important.
Well, we have a significant Aboriginal student presence in the Fraser Valley, Stolo Nation in particular. And we know that we need to encourage more Aboriginal students, first of all, to graduate from high school, and, you know, we're working diligently to help make that happen. But beyond high school, you know, as much as anyone else, they too need university education. So we need to have an atmosphere and an environment in the university that is welcoming to everyone. Aboriginal students, international students, domestic students, everybody needs to have a place in that campus where they can feel at home. And so there is an Aboriginal gathering place that's being incorporated into the design of the building, and I hope that it plays a significant role in encouraging more Aboriginal students to enroll and be part of university life in the Fraser Valley, and use their university education as a building block to full participation in the economy.
Well, lots of education developments and training opportunities to chat about, and we'll continue our discussion with Chilliwack MLA John Less right after a quick break here on Constituency Report. And welcome back to Constituency Report, continuing our discussion today with Chilliwack MLA John Less. We're just chatting about the fabulous education facilities in the Chilliwack area, and another facility that's going to be of significance is the new Health Contact Centre, and I understand a property has now been secured?
Yes, we were able to make a $3 million grant available to, in part, secure the property, and secondly, to deal with the renovations that will be required so it can function properly as a health contact center. The concept being, of course, is that it's going to be a place where people who are homeless in particular, but other people who are dealing with challenges can go there not only to get accommodation and shelter, but they can also start to access other supports that they need, whether those are medical, mental health, addictions treatments, those kinds of things. It's a place where, first of all, they can be properly sheltered, they can be secure.
Right.
And those very basic things are so necessary before you can start that discussion about, okay, now how are we going to deal with the rest of your challenges? So I think this is an important step forward to help care for these people who have multiple needs that need to be addressed. And I really I think kudos belong to the people who have been working on this in the background for so long. Obviously, we play a role in making the funding available, and we will continue to do that, perhaps with some of the programming as well. But this is something that has not been tried before in Chilliwack or anywhere in the Fraser Valley that I'm aware of.
Right.
Yet I think it's an approach that it has potential to produce some very good results in caring for these people in a way that's going to be productive and give us some good outcomes, first of all for the people involved, but I think generally the community is interested too, to make sure these people are well looked after, and it'll potentially have positive spin-offs for the community in terms of rehabilitating some people and getting them off of a drug dependency and getting them out of street life and perhaps some of the petty crime that sometimes emerges when people out of desperation sometimes have nowhere else to turn.
Well, switching gears a bit, we have a referendum coming up on the harmonized sales tax, of course, and we're going to a mail-in ballot on this. Why was that the best option?
Well, there's of course always a number of options. There's the traditional, let's all go to the vote, the polling booth. There's electronic voting, seems to be emerging more and more. Or there's a mail-in ballot, and we decided a mail-in ballot would be a good option. It's been used before, particularly in other locations. Washington State, Oregon State have a lot of experience with mail-in ballots.
Right.
And it's a lot cheaper. We estimated that we could save $18 million by going to a mail-in ballot. That's a significant amount of money that can be saved. I think we have an obligation to save that kind of money when we can do that. So we're going to a mail-in ballot. It will mean that everybody will have a chance to vote as before. Everybody who's entitled to vote will be able to vote. It means, though, that the results are not available to us on the evening of June the 24th. As you can imagine, people need some time to get the ballots back in the mail. And when they've all arrived back at Elections BC, then they need some time to count all of those ballots.
Of course,
They're not going to hire hundreds of people to do that. They're going to have a smaller staff of people, and will take a number of days or weeks perhaps to count all of the ballots. So in the event, what that will mean, by the time we've allowed 3 or 4 weeks for the people to get their ballots back, and then several weeks for the count to happen, the results will be available in early August.
Now, an independent panel study in the harmonized sales tax recently released their report. What were some of their findings?
Well, I think to a large degree they validated what government had been saying about the HST, but there were some variations on that theme. They found in their estimation that the number of jobs, additional jobs that will be created as a result of the HST will not be as many as we had projected. They also projected that the average family in British Columbia would be paying about $350 per year extra in sales tax, as opposed to the previous GST and PST system.
Okay.
We had indicated that it was, much more of a break-even situation for the average family. So there were some variations like that. I don't think that the overall report was very critical of the HST. It was very fair, very balanced. I hope everybody reads it before they actually vote in the mail-in ballot. It's available online at hstnbc.ca. I obviously read the report. It's a comfortable half-hour read. It's not an economically, dense publication at all. It's addressed to the taxpayers of BC. It's not a government document at all.
Right.
So I was quite pleased, actually, with the whole tone of the report, the findings that came out of that, and like I said, I really hope that people take the opportunity to have a look at it, because it's going to be an important decision that people are making on June the 24th or soon after. And when you have an important decision to make, you really owe it to yourself, to your kids and grandkids, really, to make sure that you're well informed. And that's what the purpose of that exercise was to provide, a sober second look at the whole HST scenario. What are the pluses? What are the minuses? The pros, the cons? And now it's pretty close to time for the people to decide.
And that informational period does continue up until the referendum. In the meantime, though, have you seen some attitudes starting to change around the HST, how people view it?
I've seen a lot of attitudes change, and mostly those attitudes change because people acquire more information about how the tax works. And of course, especially since the implementation last July the 1st, people are living with the HST every day, and so many people are finding that it leads to so much less complication in their lives, especially people in small businesses, small 2, 3, 5, 10 person businesses, where previously there was one GST administration, and then there was the PST administration, which everybody loved to hate. Now it's just one HST administration, which is really the GST administration writ large. So small business people in particular are saying, what a godsend.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, they don't have to spend hours on the weekend filling out PST compliance forms. The general public that, perhaps aren't in business, they too, I think, have come to understand that, while on a few things, about 20% of the things that they buy, there is now an additional 7% tax. On 80% of the things that they typically buy, in a week or a month or a year, there is no additional tax. There's going to be some softening of prices over time. You see advertisements in the paper from time to time where, because the old PST is being stripped out of various items, that there is more competition and prices are coming down slightly. I'm not saying these are massive price decreases, not at all. But the bottom line for most people is they're saying, it really hasn't changed all that much. And then when you look into the future, and even the Dinning report that we were just talking about, and that agrees with so many other reports that we have seen, it will lead to more investment in the province. It will lead to more job creation in the province. And the Dinning report went on to say that these were, not just big jobs or anything like that, but better paying jobs. So, a fair evaluation of the HST would indicate that it is good for the economic future of this province. Therefore, it is good for our children. It's good for our grandchildren. Or as one of the columnists recently said, it's a little bit of short-term pain for a lot of long-term gain. And when we look at it in that light, then I think, again, when British Columbians are entrusted with this decision, it's an important one, and I'll be very interested in what the final verdict will be.
And if it is a no, what are some of those implications of returning to?
You know what? I don't even want to think about that because it'll, you know, and I don't say this because I want to, you know, try and push one option or the other, but it will not be easy to go back to the PST.
Right.
We will have to rehire the PST administration, all the bureaucrats that we let go.
Yeah.
They will have to be brought back. That'll cost us about $30 million a year, you know, on into the future. All of these small businesses I talked about before will have to then go back to a PST administration system, and they'll all squeal like crazy because they're not going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then we'll still have the GST. You know, it's not about the HST or nothing. It's the HST or do we go back to the PST and the GST? And, you know, really, you know, my bias obviously is the HST is by far the best way to go. It's good for our province's economy. It's good for individual British Columbians. It is the fairest way to levy taxes because people who have more to spend will pay more taxes.
Right.
People who are with lower incomes not only will pay fewer taxes in the first place, but in addition to that, they get the rebates, the HST rebates, which are pretty significant if you're a low-income earner.
Right.
So I believe it is a better system, and you know, we're leaving it in the hands of individual British Columbians pretty soon here to make that ultimate decision.
Well, just about another minute or so left, and I wanted to offer my congratulations. Grandchild number 15 born recently.
That's right.
Fabulous.
Back in February, our latest grandson, Branson James Less, was born.
Oh, great
and,
name.
His little sister, I guess big sister, Emily, was delighted, and my son Alan and his wife Elena obviously overjoyed as well. So yes, my wife and I enjoy 15 grandchildren, 9 boys and 6 girls.
Wow.
And our place is a pretty busy one sometimes, but what a joy they all are.
Absolutely. Maybe a loud one at times.
Yeah, it gets a little rambunctious from time to time. That's just the price you pay for an awful lot of good family fun.
Yeah. Is that a record among MLAs for the number of grandchildren?
You know,
15?
Mary McNeil's pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Giving you a run for your money.
But neither of us, of course, can contribute in any way to this. If this is a race, it's up to our kids.
That's great. Thanks so much. John Less, MLA for Chilliwack. If you'd like more information about the topics we've discussed, www.johnlessmla.bc.ca. Thanks for watching.